Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks interesting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. And also one more thing before we get into the video, if you enjoy what I do here, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps me out and lets me know you enjoy the video. But with all that out of the way, let's get into that video. Okay, so starting off with our hag here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by painting her cloak. Now I'm going to be doing this a little bit different from the official box art that she came with. She's very like blue and grey, so I want to switch that up a little bit, go with a bit more of a vibrant colour in here, but I still want to keep it interesting with the piece and work with some of the colours that we're going for here. So I've gone with a nice dark purple here as the base coat of our cloak here. So I want to build up eventually towards some brighter and brighter purples, and this is still within the sort of colder spectrum of colours in terms of the purples, rather than going in with a violet, which is a lot more warmer tones. So I want to stick with just your standard purple, your royal purple sort of things like that, and that's going to be your cooler tones, because this hag is a hag that you see and come across in like winter and snowy climates. So I want to try and represent that and hopefully give off the whole vibe of the miniature when it's all painted up to look like it comes from a cold place, and you can see her sort of coming through the nice blizzard or snowstorm like that. So just coming in and giving all of that cloak a full, nice, healthy coat of the purple. Now we have that base coat down, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with an even brighter purple, and I'm going to be dry brushing this on. And because this is our first layer of paint, I don't have to worry about getting any of that dry brushing on anywhere else. This is why I wanted to sort of do that. It always helps to plan in advance how you're going to do your paint job, so you can easily do steps like this where we're going rough in with our brush and really trying to get that dry brushing to pick out all of that nice detail on that cloak. But I don't have to worry about hitting anywhere accidentally, like the arms and the hands and the staff and things like that. So just making it easier on myself. Now that we have that done, I'm going to go with an even brighter purple, and this is like basically a lavender color, and I'm just focusing this like even lighter and focusing more on the parts that are going to be naturally in the sunlight, essentially, where our light source is coming from. Just trying to make it, you know, your sort of very top parts with this color here, really making it pick out the very highest of ridges and edges on the end there in this nice lavender color. Now that we have that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a purple wash, and this is of course just going to be washing over everything we've painted up. Now this is up to you step with how the order you want to do it here. You can apply the wash after maybe the first level of the dry brushing we did to save a little bit of time, but I wanted to have a lot of layers of different purples in there, because I'm actually going to come in with a highlight layer at the end more here to pick out a lot more of those areas, and I wanted a whole range of purples in there. But if you want to speed the whole process up, I'd recommend by doing the base coat in the purple, then doing one dry brush with the mid-tone purple, then applying a wash, and then coming over with another quick dry brush that we did in our last step for the end, and this would speed up the whole process that we're doing here. But I'm trying to go for a little bit more detail and texture on the model, so I wanted to have all three of those colors here and then place a wash over top, and then later on I'm going to come in with some highlights again to pick out a lot more of that detail. It's just going to give a little bit more visual impact to the entire piece and give us a lot of interesting colors over the entirety of this big cloak she's wearing. Then once we have that completely dry, I'm going to start working on her skin now. So for me, I'm coming in with a nice cool tone blue here, and as you can see, it's quite bright, but that's what we want for our nice hag here, who's, you know, this frozen entity that you can see in your snowstorms. I want that skin to be nice and bright blue and really look like it's going to be cold. We're eventually going to make it look a lot more colder than it is, but we want to start off nice here with a nice bright blue as our base tone that we can work with here. And of course, too, we also want to make sure that we avoid the areas where it touches that cloak, because we have that cloak pretty much in a finished state, so we want to try and preserve that as much as possible. So having a little bit of brush control here is really going to help, which isn't too much that we have to worry about it dealing with, but really pay attention to where her face is in that cloak. You switch to a smaller brush if you need to. Now we have that base layer of her skin down. I'm coming in with a really bright blue now, and this is going to be coming in for the highlights. Now, she has some nice sculpted in detail in terms of like her sinewy arms and bony fingers, so she's got some nice little ridges and stuff sculpted onto the model, so I'm picking them out. And as you can see on some of the areas where there's a lot of detail, but it can be a little bit hard to get the brush to pick them all out properly with the point, I'm just skimming over the top of the brush, sort of like in a dry brushing motion, but not using the tip, just using the edge of my brush to pick out all of those details nice and easily, rather than me trying to get the point exactly right, then having it accidentally bend off in a direction I don't want it to as well. So making it sort of simpler on myself by sort of just scraping over it gently with the edge of my brush. As well as that too, you also want to make sure that you pick out our hag's face. So we want to be picking out areas like the tip of the nose, the ridge of the eyebrow, even the bottom of the chin, just little areas like that to pick out some of that extra detail that's really going to help make it pop just that little bit more on the table. Now we have that highlighting step complete. What we're going to do now is come in with a wash, and I'm going to place this over the entirety of our skin, being of course careful that we don't get any of it on our cloak. So just using a smaller amount of wash here, and I've got a nice controlled amount of wash on my brush here. So if you have to, dunking your brush, and make sure you just brush it off just a little bit on the side of your palette there, so you've got a nice clean and more controllable amount of wash on your brush. And of course, just making sure that we want to get it really nicely into those recesses. One area that I'm sort of just putting a little bit more wash into is the eye sockets. I want to have these nice deep dark blue eyes. Essentially they're going to be just super dark blue with the wash going in there, so she looks like a crazy scary monster with these sunken in eyes from a distance. Okay, now we have that done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a brown now, and I'm going to be using this for her staff that she has in her hand. One thing I also forgot to mention too is I just gave a quick painting of a off-white color to our hag's hair as well, just cleaning it up and giving it a good solid base coat on the hair as well. I want to have her with some nice crazy frizzy white hair in there as well. So just make sure you could do that. Unfortunately, I didn't catch that. I sort of forgot about it when I was painting up quickly on camera. So just one little spot to there. But as you can see, we just want to be making sure that we give a good even coat of a nice neutral brown on our staff of our hag here. Then once we have that staff painted up, I'm going to come in with more of a brownish tan now. And this is, she actually has some ropes that she has on her jacket. Her cloak that she's wearing, which has some nicely sculpted in bones on it. It's got the skulls and all the little bony parts, so picking them out. And as you can see, because we've got the brown here, which is just slightly different from the brown that we have on our staff, and it's a completely opposite color on the color wheel from our purple that we have on here, it really stands out nicely. So a nice easy way to get a pop of color here by having it just pop out by it just being an ordinary sort of rope that's dangling. I don't want anything fancy because she's a hag that sort of lives out in nowhere and doesn't have access to a lot of things, so I just wanted to make it just some sort of regular rope that she's used to tie up these parts of her bones that she carries on her, probably of her victims that she's collected over the time. Now we have those picked out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a bone color now, and of course that is just going to be to pick out the bones on here. Now, it's maybe a little bit hard to see on camera. It's quite hard to see on the model. They're just next to the bone of the skull there. There's actually like little bells on there, but they're super like hard to see from there. So I just wanted to paint them up as bone, maybe some sort of sculpted out of bone bell that she's made, but I think it looks a little bit more just like other bone pieces that she has scattered on her. You could of course come in with a metallic in here, or any sort of color you want to have as those little bells. I didn't want to mess around and put a metallic on here. I thought it would ruin the whole thing. I'm going with the hag, just trying to keep it sort of scraps she's found out in nature. But also too, it's just the detail on the bell specifically, not sculpted in too well, so it's quite hard unless you're super close up to the miniature. You're not going to notice that they're a bell, so I wanted to make them just more bones to the pieces, so I painted them up in a bone color. Then now we have all of that painted up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with a sepia wash. In this case I'm using some Seraphim sepia here, and I just want to be applying this over our ropes and our bones here, just giving them a little bit of that color in there, especially with those bones. We want to set nicely into those eye sockets where the teeth are, just into those little parts there. It's really just going to help bring them out just that little bit more. As well as that too, it's going to darken down and add a little bit of definition into the ropes around her body as well. Now that we have that picked out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some highlighting now. Now that we have all of that part done, we're just coming into sort of our highlighting stage here. This is where we're going to add a lot of detail into our miniature here and really help just raise that up a level, because we've got that 3 layers of paint with our purples on our cloak. And I'm just using the very brightest color that I used for that very last dry brushing in the previous step as the absolute highlight color. And because we've got that wash on there, and I'm just picking out very small parts, but specifically I'm just picking out in vertical stripes along the model to give it hopefully a nice texture on the piece. And because it has all these nice bumps and ridges in here, and I'm just going really scratchy in with these little highlights, it should hopefully bring it out really nice and make it look like it's a sort of scraggy, well-textured cloak in the distance of the miniature, because I'm just picking out each one of these little ridges with that brightest color. As well as that too, I'm also mainly focusing on all the very brightest areas, so just slightly smaller than when we went in with our big last dry brushing step. I'm just picking out all of those areas basically to really help boost that up and add in that little bit more detail with these little vertical stripes. Then once we have those details on the cloak painted out, what I'm going to do is come back in with our highest highlight that we use for our skin, and I just want to come in and pick out some very fine points of the highlights that we had on there, just picking that out even thinner, just like we did in our last step, but this time coming in with the skin, just picking out those very brightest points. And this of course is with all of those layers and the wash over top, and then coming back in this very stark bright blue is hopefully going to make her skin look really cold and like icy. That's the effect I'm trying to get anyway with it, and hopefully that'll pay off. But with all of that complete, I believe that is our miniature done. So now we're going to go into some nice glamour shots and see how our miniature came out. And with all that completed, we have finally finished painting up our BHRUR HAG from the Dungeons & Dragons line of miniatures from WizKids. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here, or you just want to use the video for yourself in painting up your own miniatures. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.